Hello and welcome to Charges Talk 4630. I'm Stacy Mallory. I've been MIA for a few weeks, and a few people have been reaching out wanting to know what was going on, where you've been, and we haven't seen your podcast in a minute, and we were just hoping that you would be okay. I am okay. Unfortunately, several weeks ago, I did lose a family member, so that was the main reason that I was gone from the podcast for a minute. And then trying to get back into it, I ran into another issue that I want to explain the whole thing to you. I had several emails that I got, when you have your notifications from YouTube. I had several emails that, I'm sure there's a lot of people like myself that sometimes don't check. I have a email specifically for Charges Talk 4630. I haven't checked it in so long. And I went on there a couple of weeks ago and I saw all these emails from YouTube that said you had these responses and we need you to go check your notifications on your YouTube page. So I did. I was disturbed at what I found. So I want to just explain it all to everyone. And I'm sure you'll understand why I took the actions that I did. My generation was raised to, if you disagree with someone, you disagree in a friendly manner and you do it with respect. Everyone has a right to freedom of opinion and expression. Freedom of expression is a fundamental human right that we all have. Sometimes people struggle with accepting the opinions of other people, but the act of dismissing or rejecting someone's thoughts or feelings or opinions with regards to this podcast by coming on here and leaving messages in my inbox using profanity and racial slurs is not acceptable. I was attacked with the use of the N-word in 3 separate DMs, which is more than I have my entire life. It's a disrespectful and derogatory word that I erased from my mental hard drive as a child. I was taught and raised better than that. I don't use the word, never have, and never will. And it's something I will never be comfortable with, nor will I ever accept. And I'm going to say this right here and right now. And I hope you're watching again. And you probably are. You know exactly who you are. You are a coward for hiding behind a fake profile picture and a fictitious name. What you did was weak, immature, and ignorant. You are a person who have trouble understanding that there are perspectives beyond your own. Subconsciously, you believe that the way you see the world is the same for everyone. When an alternative point of view is given, some people can't interpret it and they get defensive, which sometimes lead to these type of responses. Yes, you have a right to your opinion. That doesn't mean every opinion you have is right. Hell, you have a right to get out of your car on a busy highway and walk into oncoming traffic. I don't suggest you do that because you have a right to. I'm sure you agree if you did that, it would be an act of stupidity, not a right. But I worked an entire career in law enforcement protecting people like you, and it didn't matter who you were, what you looked like, or where you were from. I did what was right. You sitting at home behind a keyboard with a fake profile picture and a fake name to attack people online, but I want to tell you there's nothing brave about that. With the help of YouTube investigating, I know who you are now. And they should have reached out to you by now to remind you of every policy of YouTube's that you violated with your actions and your behavior. If you didn't like this podcast, why did you ever come on here? Take you and your misery somewhere else. It's not wanted here. I go on many podcasts and I also disagree with things that are said sometimes. And I haven't always liked the topic or narrative on that particular podcast. But unlike you, I would just move on until I find another podcast that interests me. I don't go into their chat room or their inbox and become irate, disrespectful, and go on a tirade as if I'm an immature child. I can take constructive criticism, and I have since doing this podcast. Everyone didn't agree with my opinion and express that. Some of those interactions have taken place right inside the chat room of this podcast, and they are still there for anybody that want to view them. Whomever disagreed with a take or an opinion I had, they respectively let me know what their disagreement was, and we had a healthy, respectful, and civil dialogue about it in the chat room as well as on the podcast, and we moved on. All was well, and before the day was over, we were laughing it up about other things again. What a beautiful thing it is when we can come from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different cultures, don't look like each other, yet we can treat each other with the respect that we all deserve. Despite our diverse backgrounds and experiences, respect and understanding can transcend differences we have. Unity and diversity give us the capacity for empathy, communication, and acceptance, which creates a more harmonious and peaceful world. That's what I want, and that's what I'm about. We are all here on this earth just trying to find our way and survive. We are doing the best we can at this thing called life. People can only act at their level of consciousness, empathy, and awareness. But ultimately, we all want the same things, which is love, peace, connection, and just enjoy life. We all have moments when things get uncomfortable, but how you handle that adversity defines your character. My good friend told me nothing others do is because of you, but what others say and do is a projection of their own reality. So when someone's rude, especially if they're making personal attacks on another's character, you have a choice about how you react. And although as pissed off as I was, I needed some time to reflect and react in a way that something good can come out of this. Now, the good thing for YouTube is that they have a system in place that anytime anyone put something in a chat or send in a DM to you, the system detects if something is inappropriate with the content that they're sending. And they send it to me to say, do you approve of this or not? And if you approve of it, then it can go into the regular chat. And if you don't approve, then you send it to them and then they'll check it out and find out what's going on. And it had been going on for several weeks. I just didn't know. I never checked my email. I should have, but I wasn't checking my email on a regular basis. So I didn't even know they had flagged a couple of messages that were sent to me from someone that was viewing the podcast. And there was another individual that also put something derogatory in the chat, but it was flagged by YouTube and they sent it to me to be approved. Again, no real profile picture, no real name, but said things like, shut the F up, didn't use the N-word, but shut the F up. I mean, just basically upset because I may have criticized a decision of Jim Harbaugh's or a particular player, and they got that emotionally upset that they threw words in the chat room and YouTube intercepted it because they thought something in it was inappropriate and sent it to me for approval. And I read it, and this guy was going all over the place for a couple of weeks. I screenshot the message and I went all over social media trying to find this individual, and I found him on X, and I did reach out to him. He wouldn't respond to me, but one thing I will say, which I found out in my research of that, he was the younger brother of an individual that also do a Charger podcast. I don't want to mention, I know who the guy is. I don't want to mention the podcast, but he was related to someone that did a Charger podcast. I even went on that individual's Chargers podcast that he have, and I actually seen him interacting in the chat room. I didn't know how to send a private message to him, but I also didn't want to go in and be disrespectful in the chat room to the podcast that I was watching. But I went in his DM on X and I sent him a nice long message and let him know how I felt about it and opened the door for a dialogue for me and him to have a conversation, and he refused to respond. So that's a lot of the reasons why I'm just going back and forth in my mind. Do I even want to do this? Because when I did this, I was having fun. And it's nice when you're having fun doing this and interacting with Charger fans from all over who you don't know. I then went out to LA and met a lot of those guys to a Chargers game, and it was a beautiful thing. But when you're not having fun doing it anymore, then you have to question, should you even be doing it at all? So with that being said, everyone knows that I've been a Charger fan now for 46 years. I live in New Jersey. I didn't encounter many Charger fans in Jersey since the team plays on the West Coast. In order to connect with other Charger fans outside of my area code, especially during the season, that led me to start my own YouTube podcast. That's how I started Chargers Talk 4630. It's funny because I've often been asked, how did you come up with that name? Since I was discussing the Chargers, I chose Chargers Talk as part of the title. The 4630 refers to my badge number from my career in law enforcement. So I combined them together. Chargers Talk 4630. That represents me. From podcasts that I watched, most of the people who have a podcast are not in their 60s like I am. And they, on average, they've been podcasting for anywhere from 7 to 10 years. Now, people that are doing podcasts know there's a lot of preparation involved, including extensive editing, studying content, and conducting research. Additionally, there's a lot of cost involved that's associated with podcasting. You need high quality cameras, computers, and different types of software, so things can get very expensive. I absolutely love talking about the team that I love and the team I'm committed to since I was a little boy. To all the subscribers of Chargers Talk 4630, I've decided to step back from doing the podcast. This was a difficult decision for me. This is a decision that I went back and forth with. And at this point in my life, I've been retired for 8 years, and I'm trying to enjoy the time I have left here and do it with as less stress as possible. Someone said to me one day, anything you're not trying to change, you're accepting. Some of the things in my DM that was said to me is too disgusting to repeat, but it definitely caught me off guard. And afterwards, I'm saying to myself, other than the people that support this podcast, who I love and who I really appreciate, I find myself saying, I'm retired. Why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here upset and stressed when I should be enjoying this chapter of my life right now? It's important for me now to focus on my health and other commitments that I still have. I want to thank my former co-host, Garrett Elsasser, for his contributions. I want to thank Kyle D, who taught me so much more about technology. I was already a tech junkie, but he taught me so much more that I had not learned yet. I want to also thank him for allowing me to write about the Chargers on his website called stormcloud.blog. And that site has many other talented writers, and I recommend that you go there and check it out if you haven't done so already. Kyle, it was an honor and a pleasure. And to all the subscribers of Chargers Talk 4630, I want to express my deepest gratitude for your loyalty. I want to thank you for tuning in every week. I want to thank you for your unwavering support. I want to thank you for your engagement. I appreciate all of you who agreed with my takes, even the ones who didn't. And I appreciate you just as much. Thank you for being a part of this short but 2-year journey. The good thing about life and being retired is you're not on anyone else's clock anymore. You're on your own clock. And the beauty of it all is you can do whatever you want to do. So I take my hat off to all you guys out there that do your own podcast, because I know it's costly, it's time consuming, and at times can be very overwhelming. I hope for all of us Charger fans that Jim Harbaugh at some point over the next couple of years bring us a Super Bowl. That would be great for my team to finally win the big one. And I thank all of you who supported this podcast. It was 2 years, but it was fun, and I got to interact and meet with Charger fans that I wouldn't have before starting this podcast. So I owe so much to you for supporting me. Me and Kyle have talked about a lot of different things, from life, politics, race, religion, and still walked away from each other with our dignity and our respect for each other. We all need to challenge each other and push each other to be the best version of ourselves. So now I'll just sit back and enjoy the games and talk with my family and friends about it, and enjoy being retired and spending time with the grandkids and all. And for any reason, if anyone decides to have me on their podcast every now and then, I'll be open to do that. But I'm closing the door on this chapter right now. Well, bye for now. And again, Charger fans, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to, before I'm out, I want to give a shout out to a couple of people who I used to interact with, and I'm going to miss talking with you guys. Big shout out to Alan Clearly, Culprit 1985, CJ Curtis 8944. CJ Curtis, I remember when we first met on here and the interaction we had, and you know what I'm talking about. It was really funny, but I'm going to really miss the engagement between you, and thank you for always holding me accountable. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Shiba Inu. If I'm not, I apologize, but I think you know who I'm talking about. Big shout out to Dave Cornick, Pacific Beats, my boy, Big Baby Boy Sports. Y'all go check out Big Baby Boy Sports. He's doing big things, podcasting for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's out there interviewing the owner, interviewing the different players, and he's doing some special things. And he's also a diehard Charger fan. I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to interact with each other. We've been trying to get together and do a podcast for a while, and we weren't able to do it. But hey, man, anytime you call me up and want me to come on and chit chat, I wanted to have it as a surprise to you. But I was going to do it on the podcast, but I could tell you now, the surprise was, like you promote the Lakers and you have your podcast talking about the Lakers, but you're a diehard Charger fan. And people wouldn't know that because of if they just went on your site, because you just see Lakers. You wouldn't know. The only thing you would know about me when you come to Charge Talk 4630 is because everything was all Chargers. But I'm a diehard Laker fan also. So I was going to surprise you that when we finally got together. But anytime you want me on, you just give me a shout out, man. And I would love to come on and chit chat with you about the Lakers and the Chargers. Shout out to Brian Stowe. And if anybody else I forgot, man, that we used to interact with, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you guys for all the support that you gave me. And finally, and more importantly, shout out to all my family, my children, and my friends for always supporting me here on Chargers Talk 4630. So I'm kind of like falling back from social media, but we always going to be together in spirit. You ain't going to never forget about me and what Chargers Talk 4630 brought to the table. And I'm never going to forget about you guys. I'm always going to be talking about this podcast and the people who I used to interact with. So, hey, listen, again, thank you guys so much. Let's go Chargers. Let's get a Super Bowl within the next 2 years. If not this year, I'm giving like within 3 years, I expect a Super Bowl. So love you guys much. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.